Hello everyone and welcome to LFC Transfer Room Match Reaction. Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 1, and it was a tricky start for the Reds today in front of the new Anfield stand, the new Anfield crowd. A debut for Szoboszlai, debut for Mac Allister at home. Two very, very different performances for both as well, and a full debut for Endo coming on towards the end. First and foremost, give me your initial reaction, Charlie. How are you feeling after that game initially?
Yeah, so first 15 minutes was taking me back to a few years ago. But once we got settled, we turned it on, everything that you wanted to see. We won't talk about certain players just yet because, I think we're going to talk about man of the match and the opposite side of things. But once we got settled, we found our rhythm. The referee was a complete joke today. Again, we'll probably talk about the red card at some point. But the referee just did not help the game. And so I'm glad that we got it. We've got 3 points, 4 points out of 6, away to Chelsea, good home win. Let's keep the kind of momentum going. Really happy days. It's a Liverpool win.
You mentioned about the referees, and it's a shame that we have to mention it every single week. I feel like we talk about referees every single week. We shouldn't have to be doing that. This is the best league in the world. We should be concentrating on the win and the 3 points. Ben, give me your initial reaction then. Are you optimistic going into Newcastle after that?
Yeah, I would say so, to be honest with you, because, after them first 3 minutes, anything could have happened. We could have been 2-0 down fairly fast. And I think that it was actually a really big win because, looking ahead, if we never have took the 3 points there, a point against Chelsea, a point or even a defeat against Bournemouth, going into Newcastle, there's all of a sudden this huge shift in pressure and a lot of pressure that gets put on the players, and we needed it. But to be honest with you, I think there was still a lot of positives in the game as a whole, and you can't grumble about the result. Win's a win at the end of the day, and it wasn't one of them wins where we scraped across the line. Even though we did go down to 10 men, I still feel like we had the best of the game.
Julie's coming in now. The boys are happy with the win, but obviously, I think it highlighted a lot what's going wrong at Liverpool at the moment. And I think it highlighted what's going right at Liverpool at the moment. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, I definitely think we got a bit of the defensive fragility that's carrying over from last season. I was excited to see Endo come on the pitch, and I thought he did pretty well, given that probably hasn't. I don't think he's trained with the team, so I think it's one of those games that you should have gone so much better, but at the end of the day, you just have to be happy with the 3 points because you're going to have those games where you just got to get it over the line. So it's important.
It's one of the days you just tick off, innit? You tick it off, move on, straight on to Newcastle. And I mean, it's going to be a difficult one against Newcastle with the way they played against Villa last night. I fancy him to beat Man City later on, if I'm honest. I just think that Newcastle are a team here to watch out for in terms of top four and challenging for title. Going on, let's start from the beginning then, Charlie. It all went tits up straight away. We had that offside goal. I think Trent got a little touch of it. It could have been given onside just because of that little touch, but we moved on and they didn't learn from that same mistake. Trent messing around in the middle. I've said before, I've had countless arguments in our group chat. Well, that, guys, about Trent being a DM. I said he's not a DM. He's not a DM. Trent needs space. And in that DM position, you do not get space. You need a player that's going to be there, a specialist player that knows how to turn and knows who's behind him. Trent didn't know that. He turned into trouble. Caught out 1-0 Bournemouth.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. He wasn't turning, was he? It was just that poor touch. Received a really simple ball. It wasn't something like last week's Mac Allister to Nunez ball, where it was kind of up against his midriff. But today's ball was straight to him. Should have controlled it. Played the first time past to Alisson. Calmed it down. But yeah, it was just a really, really poor touch. And yeah, credit to Bournemouth. They saw the opportunity to go at the player there. I think it was interesting that once that happened, and certainly from the 15th minute after we settled, you saw Trent play more traditionally right wing back, rather than moving into the middle. I saw that, and I have a lack of football knowledge here. So if I could see it, I'm pretty sure everyone else saw it as well. So yeah, we desperately need a starting DM to play alongside Mac Allister, who shouldn't have seen a red today. But yeah, as soon as we get a DM, proper starter. I know Endo's at the club now, but once we get those, the additions, we're going to be flying.
This is why when people say, well, there's still 2 weeks left of the transfer window, but it's not about that, is it? We could have dropped more points today, Charlie, couldn't we? I mean, going into that game there with DM, we could have gone 2-0 down quite early on. I think obviously the goal offside, the goal went in, and then that bit where I can't think what it was. Alisson was looking for a pass, wasn't he? And he messed around, but he started.
Yeah, he got a yellow card.
When you've got a proper DM in there, Charlie.
Yeah.
There's an outfield pass there, isn't there? But because Mac Allister doesn't see that sort of thing back there, and whoever's players there doesn't see that pass to be. They've got to make themselves available. Alisson was stuck and he had nothing to do but dribble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Alisson, I rarely say it as well. He had a poor game today. I know he made a really good save towards the end of that game in the second half, but just some decisions when ball to feet, accepting the ball, how long he was taking. I don't know if that's again trying to build from the back and the options available to him, i.e. a DM, and then when you have a DM who can fall back into that the middle of the centre backs, that allows for Trent and Robbo to kind of push up. That's the situation, because Mac Allister isn't that de facto number 6. He isn't kind of trained to fall into the middle, essentially between Konate and Virgil, to give more options on the wide, on the width of the pitch. And that's the problem when you have a number 8 in the sense of Mac Allister dropping into that DM role. You don't have that mentality when picking up the ball and giving options to other players. And so, yeah, it's just a bit of a crazy first 15, 20 minutes from the team entirely. Sloppy passes. I started making a little little tally of errors, and I lost count. And I'm like, right, that's it. I give up on that, and there you go.
Against a better opposition today, we lose that, especially those first 15 minutes. If they finish us off in that first 15 minutes and go 2-0, 3-0 up, you're looking at an absolute impossible task to come back. Ben, going on from that, then we got the equalizer again. Diaz back on the score sheet. Good work down the right hand side, getting the ball in the box. Diaz again, good finish. Really, I think it was good finish. Although he did fall over, didn't he? Doing it, but it was good finish. I was seeing a different Diaz this season, a goal scoring one. Yeah,
and what a goal it was as well, by the way, because I had to watch it twice just to make sure that little flick was, it was on purpose. But he absolutely knew what he was doing. And I love Diaz, mate. I said a couple of weeks ago, for me, he has that snap in his play, and I just love it. He has that aggressiveness that want to win in his play, and I thought he was brilliant throughout the game. And I hope that the knock isn't anything too serious. But just going on to what you were speaking about, just jumping back to that, for them first 3 minutes, I do feel, going back to what you were saying, Charlie, that it was like in them first 3 to 5 minutes, we never really knew we were in a game, if that makes sense. And it took that shock to the system for the players really to react to it, which I think they did well enough.
Yes, as Charlie's put in there, we've got 100 viewers and we've only got 10 likes. Nearly 100 viewers and only 10 likes. Please smash that like and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well, because we are live every single night. Live match reactions, live podcasts, every day, every single day. We're going to give you the best and the most Liverpool content that we can. Drew, how important was that goal at the time that we scored with Diaz? Because, like Ben just said, we was on the back foot. We didn't look like we were awake for the first bit. That a goal like that changes everything. I think we dominated after that, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those things that we needed to steady the ship. It was just kind of shocking to see how disjointed we were starting the game. I think this has happened in the past where we almost play down to the level of opposition or against teams we think are weaker. We kind of stroll about, and last season we got punished for that terribly. And this, like you said, we could have been 2 goals down opening 10 minutes, and we really needed to snap back into gear. And it was frustrating to see the lack of composure in those early minutes of the game. But a little link up, Jota puts in the ball to Diaz and he flicks it up to himself and gets the finish. That individual bit of brilliance, though, kind of turned on the switch for us, and I was like, okay, we can play ball. Because once we started doing that, it was obvious how much better quality players we had on the pitch. The link-up play became a lot better. Even something simple like Gakpo doing like a spin turn, little roulette in the midfield just to retain possession. It's like Bournemouth doesn't have that in their locker, and we have so many players that can do that. So that goal, like you said, it was so crucial to steady the ship and then take a hold of the game from there and really play our football. But it's frustrating. Maybe that's like the important and timely reminder to Liverpool that you can't take any game lightly. I think it's so much, it's overstated, but like the Premier League, you can lose to anyone. Man City can lose to anyone. Any team can lose to anyone if you're not on your game and you're not ready from the start. So you can't rely on just like cruising through games. And players like Diaz are so important in that regards because they're so hungry. As Ben said, like he's just that kind of player that takes games by the throat, and you really need those players in the squad. So we're lucky to have them because without scoring that goal, it could have been a lot tougher if Bournemouth went into like halftime 1-0 up. Szoboszlai, a little sneaky with winning that penalty, but I was happy to see us get control of the game, and that definitely was the turning point.
Just before we go on to the penalty, Harklad, I do apologise for getting your thing up quickly and getting down quickly. I realised because Drew's talking, I didn't want to cover his face when he's talking that. So that's why I put it back down. And he says the first 20 minutes we were shambles and Alisson was terrible, but afterwards he controlled the game. It was quite opposite to last week, wasn't it, Charlie? Where we came out the blocks flying first 20 minutes, could have got 2-0 up, got an offside goal, funnily enough, and then Chelsea dominated from there. And it seemed to be the way around this today, didn't it?
So, talking about last week, that second goal that was offside just took the wind out of our sails. Us getting the goal that we did in that time, I 100% agree with what Drew just said there as well. The timing was perfect. Now, it's really, really strange, really, really funny as well. Like a year ago to this date, we played against Crystal Palace at home. We went 10 men down, Núñez with the headbutt against their central defender. And that was on 57 minutes, I think it was. And we scored our equalizer just after that. Now, the similarities in terms of, we probably underestimated the opposition on that day and came away, having dropped 2 points. I hope that this season just shows that with a little bit more belief, we can actually try to get something out of it. But yeah, it's the complete opposite. If we had from 20 minutes to 90 against Chelsea, we probably would have won last week. But if we had and including the first 15 minutes from last week's game, would have been a perfect performance. So maybe it's just early season kind of cobwebs. Yeah, just finding that little bit of rhythm, because pre-season's always going to be pre-season. You never have competitive games. It's not going to be anything like the Premier League that we see week in, week out. I think we're lucky that we played Bournemouth today. If we had been playing against Brighton, it may have been a different result, because there's some really, really good teams, and we cannot take teams for granted anymore. We need to.
No easy game in this league. There's no easy game in this league at all. I know we beat Bournemouth 9-0 last season, but that was a one-off. You don't do that every week.
Not anymore.
Harklad, to answer your question, thanks, I appreciate that. I thought Jota was poor today. Yeah, Jota was poor again. I know he got his goal, but for me, I said it last week, he's not a striker for me. I think he's more of a left winger and more of an impact sub. And to answer your question, by the way, I missed the card. Why was it given? The next comment answered it. Let's get the next comment up. There you go. That's your answer to your question. Thank you, Searing, for answering that question for me. That saves me a lot of time. Let's go on to the penalty then, Drew. The officiating again. Talking about the officiating again. We'll go on to the penalty. Me personally, I don't think it was a penalty. Growing up in England, I don't know if people. I don't know if you see it over there in America with the games you play out in amateur and things like that. You do that on a Sunday league pitch, they'll drag you up. There's no chance you get a penalty in that. And for me, contact sport is a contact sport, and it was minimal, that contact on Szoboszlai. He played it, fair enough. If that was against us, I'd be fuming, absolutely fuming. But you take your chances, don't you? Salah missed the original penalty and took in the rebound. Luckily, got a rebound this time. Last year against Bournemouth away, he didn't get a rebound, and it could cost us top 4 in the end. Were we looking to get that penalty, Drew?
Yeah, Szoboszlai definitely knew what he was doing going over. Like, I think he just cut the ball really quickly, and the defender stuck out a leg, and Szoboszlai's like, "Thank you, just easy penalty to give there." It's one of those ones where it's like he won the penalty. There definitely wasn't enough contact for Szoboszlai to go down, but it was on that border where it's like you swung a foot, Szoboszlai hit his leg, and he went over. It's a stupid mistake from the defender. I'd be really frustrated if someone like Robertson or Van Dijk or any of our backline did something like that, because you're just asking for the player to go down at that point. It's, thank you, give me the ball at the spot, and like you said, thankfully the rebound went right to Salah and he put it in, because that was definitely a nervy moment. I wasn't sure when he stepped up to the spot if he was going to sink that, but we got lucky. And then the red card, it was one of those, I agree with you. Like, I've watched, a lot of historical games. I started following Liverpool back in like the late 2000s, but even then I still remember Carragher's challenge on Nani. Like, that was a red. But this one,
a red card, yeah.
I think this is like letter of the law, studs up. I think the ref made a very quick decision. It's not like he thought about it too long. It was, the play comment, he just took out the red. He didn't really take too much time to think about it, because the player on the ground, the Bournemouth player on the ground, he, I'm sure that hurt, but he also wasn't injured. He got up and played. It wasn't even like he had a limp after the challenge. It was just a really bad timing, but it wasn't even like he threw his foot into that challenge. It just kind of stuck up a foot to block or get a touch on it, and the player swung into his out foot. So, just it's one of those ones where it could have gone either way. I think, like you said, if that happened against us, it would be studs up. So I'm not too upset, but it definitely it's a hard yellow at the end of the day. Not even maybe just a yellow, but I'm glad that after that we still took control of the game. Endo came on, and I thought especially early minutes of Endo's coming on, had a few plays where he broke up play in the midfield or just turned with the ball and just really slowed things down and helped us not have an erratic performance after that. And then the goal from Jota at the end settled it, and we were able to kind of cruise from there, nervy moment or two aside.
Yeah, as you said there regarding Endo, it really is that James Miller replacement where he's slowing the game down towards the end, but it's not a starting to hit the end, is he? I think he's a bit too slow in terms of on the ball. He's brilliant off the ball and gets the ball back, but we'll talk about Endo a little bit further on. We'll continue with the red card as well. And before we do, Ben, make sure you do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Hit that notification bell. We are live every single night. We're getting live again tonight at 7:30. This is just a match reaction today. Ben, going on to that red card then, soft, wasn't it? I think they both went in the same way. They both went in with a side foot. I can see it given. I can see why it's given, but it's a bit soft.
I think it's one of them ones, isn't it? It's not only is it soft, but just even the nature of the game and Mac Allister's play during the game, there was no aggressiveness. I think it's one of them ones that you can give if you've told him a couple of times, or if there's been another dangerous challenge along with it. But for me, it was a yellow card at best, and it wasn't like he was trying to go through the player with the studs up. It was more the player making contact with his studs. So it was very, very cruel. I just do wonder though that if Mac Allister was in a Bournemouth shirt today, whether that would have been a red card.
It's funny really, because like I said, the Bournemouth player did the exact same challenge. It just one went a little bit higher and one got the ball quickly. It was one of them where it's just get back up, made a mistake, yellow card, move on. A red card. I mean, people are saying there, can they appeal it? Then yes, they can appeal it, but we appeal things all the time with Klopp, and it never gets overturned. Never gets overturned. In fact, we'll probably get an extra big game ban just for even asking. Charlie.
Sorry, just a quick one on that one. Can someone just let us know on which games Mac Allister will miss? Because he'll miss Newcastle, won't he?
Be straight red. It'd be 3 matches, won't it?
And what will be the other two?
I think City's the. fifth. I've got City. I can't think who was in between City and Newcastle. I'm sure City's the third one.
So I think
it's either City or Tottenham.
In terms of getting another player through
Villa
that door.
Sorry, Ben. It's Villa Wolves. So Newcastle, Villa Wolves.
So we've got City straight after that. Then
I think that kind of sums up the importance of getting another player in, because especially now going into Newcastle, all of a sudden, we could be in trouble, and that's the truth. If it doesn't get overturned, if it can't be overturned or whatever, then we're looking late already. Going into what for me would be the biggest game so far against Newcastle. They'll be right up for it. They will.
Yeah.
And this, if he was wearing a Man United shirt, it wouldn't be in red. No, it'd been a goal for Man United. Charlie, going in. Sorry, mate. Going into Newcastle without Mac Allister, how big is it to get a midfielder in now in the next few days before the Newcastle game? And it shouldn't have to take a red, should it, to go and act in the transfer window?
No, and I would be hopeful that we're still progressing with trying to get someone in. It'll be really interesting to see if Decore, if he is the prime target now, if he plays on Monday against Arsenal. They've got a big game, haven't they? So if Decore doesn't play, there may be something in that to look into. We desperately do need some more midfielders. Jones is out injured, wasn't he, as well today?
Yeah.
So that's one.
Thiago might be fit though. Thiago might be fit.
Thiago, Basetic, they could be coming back. We are getting players back, but how much reliance can you put on Thiago and his injury record? It's just not there. He's a luxury player. He wouldn't be expected to play, 75% of the games in the league. So again, we probably need to be kind of really, really cognizant of who we try to get in. They need to be able to play a lot of games because we're going to have a lot of injuries, unfortunately, with this team. But really, really quickly, just on the red card and the referee decisions. So if the penalty wasn't given, I don't think VAR would have changed it. I don't think it's a clear and obvious error. It's one of those really, really soft ones. If the referee gives it, that's it. It will just stick with that. When it comes to the red card, it won't get overturned because the Premier League, the Premier League don't have the balls to be able to make decisions that would go against the referee on the pitch. So I think unfortunately we're just going to stick with those with the red card. I don't think it will ever get overturned. Just like what you mentioned, kind of jokingly, we may even get an extra one just for the the futile attempt.
You wouldn't put it past it, would you, Charlie?
No, exactly. I wouldn't put it past it against Howard Webb and his little cronies. So it really, really interesting. Is it on the 27th, the Newcastle game, which is what, next week?
Yeah.
Next week Sunday. So we've got 7 days to try to get someone to come in. Endo probably will play because he's been in the team. Like tactics, he did look like that player that had just only signed yesterday. A little bit kind of headless chicken, lost in the headlights kind of moments today, but played well. He came on and tried to help reassure the defence as well and moved into centre-back positions, just like we were talking earlier. So really promising in that respect, but we desperately need some players to come in.
It'll be interesting to see who we go with against Newcastle now, because for me, away at St James's Park, I don't think Gakpo can play in midfield.
Yeah, I'm about to say that.
100%.
After this comment, Gakpo playing in midfield against Joelinton, Gomes, and Tonali will not work. It will not work. We will get ripped apart.
Yeah.
So they are very physical as well. Yeah, they're very physical. It's even, you couldn't even put Elliott in there because it'll just be, it just doesn't work. So I think
played well, didn't he? Bicetic played well last season against Newcastle.
Do you know what it is with his injuries? With the injury, I think it'll be too much asking for him too soon to come back and play, because that will be a high intensity game. So if they're going to get someone in, they're going to have to do it fast, because you would go with Sobo,
Endo. It has to be Endo. I know it's mad.
Sobo, Endo, and who else? If Jones isn't
Thiago,
fit,
that's it really. I think Thiago's the only option.
Can you ask Thiago to play, a large portion of that game, on the back of the. I mean, I think that maybe there might have to be some sort of rabbit out the bag for Klopp next week if they're not getting someone in tomorrow.
This is the situation we're in, isn't it, Ben? This is the situation we're in because we've put ourselves in that situation. We're pissed around all window, not getting a DM in. We'll go get Endo, who's 30 years old, and you can't chuck him straight in the deep end with Newcastle. We've had to, but and obviously the Mac Allister red card, you don't see it happening, but you've got to expect these things up. You need depth.
Yeah.
And this is why I said about Cliff and Thuram. He gives depth to people like Mac Allister and Szoboszlai, and he gives them competition as well. And when people like Mac Allister gets injured or sent off like that, Thuram comes in. There's no, we don't even get worried about it. But now we're absolutely panicking about Newcastle because Newcastle midfield is no joke at all. Pankaj, yes, he will be banned for 3 years because it's a straight red. If it was a yellow card, I think it's just 1 game ban. If it's 2 yellow cards, it's just 1 game ban. Drew, let's talk about Endo then. His little cameo because obviously he probably will be playing against Newcastle. Forced now, if anything, even if I think he'd have played anyway, but it's more forced now anyway. Do you think he's shown enough in today's game that he's ready for Newcastle?
Yes and no. Yeah. That's I don't he's clearly not had enough time practicing with the team and being integrated. So it's a hard ask to have him thrown straight into the lineup. And considering the situation of the game, I felt he did a job. He came on that could have been an easy game to be overwhelmed, with the red card, down to 10 men against Bournemouth. And I don't think it was just him turning the game and stabilizing it, but he had little moments. And I think especially in those situations, it's for me, when you get a new striker scoring in your first game, those little moments of confidence, his first 5 minutes, I think he just passed the ball well in those first 5 minutes. And there was one time where he broke up play, on the front foot in the midfield, took it and passed it forward. So I think those are little wins where, those moments I think are really important for players where it's I can be in this team, I can play this game. And he definitely needs time in the training ground with the team. He definitely needs to learn the tactics more. But I think his cameo was enough to show him and Liverpool fans, the players, it's okay, this guy can do a job for us. He's not a fish out of water. He didn't look he had a few running around moments, like that tackle he made outside the box before Billing blasted it over on the free kick. That was a bit of a panic move, but I think his positives added up way more than the 1 or 2 mistakes that he did make. So I'm not super cool about him starting next week, but as you said, it's the situation we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
And I honestly think we will start Endo, Szoboszlai, and Gakpo. I see it being the same lineup as this week, but just Endo.
I think what we need is... Sorry, Dave, I was just going to mention Endo. Endo needs to be able to, or whoever plays in that kind of double pivot, needs to be able to protect or support Trent in that right back position, because last week's performance where we had that massive hole, and so their left back, so Chilwell was essentially a left winger, left striker basically, because that's how far he was playing. Next week against Isak, who's absolute dynamite on the left wing, we need to be able to have Trent. Trent needs to kind of stay at the right back position. He needs to have support. So Konate needs to be able to be supporting. Szoboszlai plays, supports at that right back defensive midfield position. Endo needs to be able to do that as well. So those are the things that we need to be looking at. But then we need to consider as well on the left hand side. But either way, I think that right hand side is that big worry for me, because how strong Newcastle are in that left side position. So yeah, there's going to be big decisions that Klopp will make.
I think one thing I did realise with Endo was that his awareness of where he was on the pitch was really good, which is something we were speaking about.
You can tell us a DM, can't you, Ben?
Yeah. Unlike what earlier in the game where Trent didn't know who was around him, Endo did, and there was a couple of someone coming to his left, someone coming to his right, and he came out with the ball. He was conscious of where other players were. I just wonder as well, I know obviously there was a couple of changes towards the end, whether there will be a system switch next week for Newcastle. I think that, I always say silly things and people laugh at me, but don't know whether we might play with a back five.
I think with Endo, just to come in, because Endo's got the experience, and I saw it in the game where Konate moved to the right-hand side. He moved and essentially covered the right back position. Endo, because of his experience of playing at centre-back and DM, was actually intelligent enough or experienced enough to actually drop into that centre-back position. That's what gives me comfort, and I kind of agree with what Ben's saying, where if we need to, and I was talking about it earlier again, it's that crucial DM position that is able to push themselves back into that centre back position to make it a 3. Then that allows our wing backs, so right back, left back to become wing backs and push further up. So it's really, really crucial that we do get a DM. I know it's a broken record, but you see the experience when you see that in Endo.
I mean, we've been crying out for it all summer, but we're waiting to the last. There's literally 2 weeks left, boys, of the transfer window. And we're still looking for a DM. A DM should have been playing against Chelsea. A DM should have been playing today against Bournemouth. A DM should be playing against Newcastle. But we're still here looking for our main DM, and it's put up or shut up for FSG now. We're regarding that. So, and you said a good point there, Ben, about playing back five. It's really good. That's made me think. So I do think we will play back five now. I think we'll have either Matip or Gomez as back three, wing backs, and I think it'd be Endo and Sob as a double pivot.
It was interesting some of the substitutions Klopp's made towards the end, and I just wondered, knowing the way that Klopp works, whether that would be something that that has crossed his mind, which is why he made the substitutions he did. I just want stability at the back, and I think the thing is, if we go to Newcastle and we're defensively solid, and we can shut them out, we can score. We know that.
On the break, yeah.
So it will be interesting to see.
I mean, it just sums up where we are, Drew, doesn't it? Where we're thinking about going into Newcastle back five and playing on the break. We're literally going Man United under Ole. But that's the situation we're in. We're in a desperate situation with no DM. So what else can we do?
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you're like, I know we tried things, like we threw money at Caicedo, but for me, the thing is waiting this long, because you don't want to be in the situation where we've done it before, where we end up getting a loan like Arthur or Kabak or Ben Davies, like just these panic buys. I think Endo is good business, but you're still left with the situation where a couple injuries, red cards, whatever, and you're panicking, and that you have to prepare for those or expect those or be ready for those. You can't assume that everyone's going to be fit the entire season. And God knows that we've shown that's not going to be the case the past few years. So yeah, definitely all on ourselves.
I agree with you there, Drew. And I think what's more concerning is we're having this conversation and we're only currently 2 games into the season. This isn't the 15, 16, 17. We're not at the halfway point. We're not, we're a long way from January. So the fact that we're having these conversations 2 weeks into the season says a lot.
Hellier makes a good point here about 6%. Yes, the numbers were quite good, Hellier. The point is, we don't play Bournemouth every week. The numbers are going to be good against them. We're going to dominate. Newcastle are completely different kettle of fish. And going into the last 5 minutes then, boys, let's give me my matches and give me the reason why it's Szoboszlai, Charlie.
Oh, he's just fantastic, wasn't he? Going forward, going back, ball retention, passing, just everything that you would look for. The energy was just fabulous to see. It's something that we've not seen in the midfield probably.
You can say it.
Since Gerrard. We kind of. Someone mentioned in the group, Kevin De Bruyne. That type of performance is what you expect to see from him, and we got that from Szoboszlai, and I'm really, really excited about the player. I think we've got him at a snip, and if we can surround him with quality midfielders, partners, he's going to fly, and then that's going to really help our attackers. Yeah, I think he's an absolutely fabulous player.
People were buzzing about Mac Allister, about signing Mac Allister, but for me, Szoboszlai was the one. I said it when we bought him. I said this guy is special, absolutely special. He can shoot, he can dribble. He's got speed that you don't even realise he's got that speed. That run he did on the wing when he caught two Bournemouth players out. Just things like that where he's direct at these players. And that creates space for everyone else. That allows Diaz to have space. It allows Salah to come inside. I mean, that sort of players we've been missing out with Drew. When we've been watching Endo just getting the ball hoofing it upfield, struggling to get back. Fabinho just sat there last season. How refreshing is Szoboszlai, Drew?
I was amazed today. This was a standout performance. This is the one that kind of dictates like what this player can be for our club. And like you said, that especially that run on the wing where he beat the two players and cut in, like that was pretty late in the game. To have the energy in the legs to do that at that moment, the composure, the confidence, all of that just speaks how much game that he has in his locker. And I think that, again, like speaking to like strong performances early on in a career, like when you put in games like that, that just is huge for the confidence levels. And for me, seeing players who are confident in their abilities is huge. Like you want a player to back himself and to put himself out there. Because I think there needs to be that situation where you're saying like if Thuram was in, like you want players absolutely taking their place, not wanting to give it up, or players waiting on the wing to just snap up a place if somebody drops off a step. And Szoboszlai just looks like he's starting the season. And he's like, I'm going to be the guy in midfield. Like this is the performance. And it's still even like there were moments where like I think he took on the ball, went to the box, and he made a bad pass instead of shooting it. Mm-hmm. And we know he can shoot from his time overseas.
He did the same last week as well against Chelsea. There's a chance where he could have shot, and I was like, what are you not shooting for?
Yeah, but like for me, that's like the hesitancy, almost like finding the pecking order. But like the moves that he's done, it's more like the more like it's obvious that he's got game, and that's gonna like encourage him. Klopp's gonna encourage him to shoot, and it's gonna be he's got all the right ingredients. And for me, it's like showing that performance today, early days is. You can just only imagine what he's going to look like at the end of 38 games this season and what his stats will be and how much he's helped the team.
The lack of DM in this team, Ben, is not just hurting the team defensively, but it's hurting it in the attack as well, because it's not letting Szoboszlai be a bit more free. It's not allowing Mac Allister to go forward and let him be himself. This week is so important to get that DM in. Even if you don't play him against Newcastle, start Endo, maybe do like 45 minutes or 60 minutes, something, and Endo, then get the other guy on. It's vital, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've seen it now. We've seen it against Chelsea. We've seen it against Bournemouth. That back line needs a man in front of it, and it needs someone who can. If you put a world beater in front of that back line, or someone who has that potential to be a world beater, this is a different team. I went as far as saying when we were linked to Caicedo and when the bid went in, I said to my friends, I said, if we sign Caicedo, we win the league. And my opinion doesn't change. If we go out and sign a top number 6, a world class or world class potential central defensive midfield player, then I think that we've seen enough in the 2 games that we are just missing a piece in the jigsaw. We're not missing half the jigsaw.
It's a Van Dijk sign, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, it is, and it's important that we get it right. But on that note as well, I do just want to pay credit to Szoboszlai today. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. The change of pace, going back to what Charlie said, it was the first time I've seen it since Gerrard, and I think he brings then legs to midfield that we've missed since Prime Wijnaldum. And I'm excited to see him for the rest of the season. I'd be surprised if he, based on from what I've seen of him so far, if he doesn't end up being our player of the season. And I know that's a bold statement to make two games in.
I think I said it before season. I think him and Diaz. I said to him, him and Diaz are the ones, because I think Diaz is that different level of winger. When people said, play Jota, he said Diaz or Nunes said Diaz. I said, no, Diaz has got that Mane potential, has got that Salah potential. I'm not putting too much on him, but he has. Is that sort of special character? Is that sort of special of a player?
I think he's that good that already within how many weeks ago did we sign him?
Szoboszlai.
Yeah, Szoboszlai, how many weeks ago is it now?
About 6 now.
Yeah, 6. Within 6 weeks, everyone who I speak to, every Liverpool fan who I'm speaking to, everyone can pronounce his name. That's how good he is.
Paul Merson couldn't. I don't know if you watched it today, but I think Paul Merson tried it every single time they went to him. He couldn't. It still comes down. It's quite easy. It's easy to say it. I don't know what he said. He said Szoboszlai or something like that, or Szoboszlai or something like that as well towards the end. They kept changing it. Just a summary. Just to sum up the game, then, guys. It was a win. It was a win, and it was a needed win. We got off to a good start last week. Early on, today it was a bit different. We started poorly. We started like we did last season, where we conceded first. Was it 12 games in a row? We conceded first last season. It was like a record. We started poorly. We got a grip of the game. Got a bit lucky with the disallowed goal and a couple of mistakes. Obviously, Alisson and Trent again. And I think it's a learning curve, but it needs to happen quick. This learning curve needs to happen quick. I'm not just talking about the players on the pitch. I'm talking about Klopp learning curve. I'm talking about recruitment staff learning curve, because games are going to start coming thick and fast. And there's no easy game, as we said earlier. There's no easy game in this Premier League. Absolutely, and there's not many harder games right now than Newcastle. And playing Newcastle next week absolutely terrifies me. Ben made a good point about maybe a formation change. That could possibly happen. It could come down to a tactic battle rather than individual brilliance. It could come down to Klopp getting the tactics right and spot on. Recently, he's been putting Gakpo in midfield. It doesn't work for me. It does not work, and especially if he's doing that against Newcastle, he's asking for trouble basically, because Tonali, Gomes, and Joe Linton are no joke. Absolutely no joke.
I think we've seen.
Go on,
sorry, just on that. I think we've seen it now, haven't we? Against Chelsea, it doesn't work, and against Bournemouth, it works slightly better, but. I think it will be a battle of the tactics, and you just back Jurgen Klopp to get one over on Eddie Howe next week.
It's just fingers crossed, isn't it? At the moment, I think Liverpool. I can't have too much faith, but I'm still optimistic being a Liverpool fan. I think today summed up everything that's about Liverpool again. Again, like the Chelsea game, it showed us what we're lacking defensively. It showed us how good we are going forward. It shows what Klopp's getting wrong and what Klopp's getting right. It showed what we're not doing in the transfer window, and it's now up to the recruitment staff to start pulling the finger out, because Josh Matt needs to get off that tanning bed or whatever he's doing, because he needs to start getting his business done.
Put his e-cig down, apparently.
Can I mention one more point?
Maybe he can play DM.
Sorry, can I just mention one more point, Demo, before we close up? Virgil. Last season, he was very kind of lackadaisical, very standoffish. What I've seen in the last 2 games, Virgil, to me, big statement. It's going to be coming. I see really vintage Virgil coming back. I think he's really, really aggressive in how he's defending. The goal today that we conceded, he probably could have done better. But actually, how he's attacking the ball now, how he's taking on defenders, getting them out the way. I think that's really, really good for us, seeing that type of Virgil come back. He's going to be a force if he carries on, if he stays fit. I'm really, really excited to see him kind of continue, and hopefully Konate does the same thing.
Like I said, it's the effort. I think he did that sprint over to the corner, didn't he? When he got the ball first. And
that's the one I'm thinking of.
We didn't see that sprint. He'd have jogged. He'd have walked.
Yeah. Last season he would have just let someone else deal with it. But this season, because of the armband, I think it's just that little bit more responsibilities meant that he has to stand up. He has to be the example. Yeah. The first and foremost, people think of Virgil. That's it. That's the standard. All other players should be playing at, and I'm really, really excited to see that as well.
Thank you for everyone joining in. Like I said, if you are new, please subscribe to the channel. Get your notification bells on. We are live again tonight at 7:30. Live tomorrow, I think it's Grace and FJ again tomorrow for the Sunday night chat at 7:30. Live every single night at 7:30. So make sure you tune in if you want any news. Also the Alexander-Arnold news we might know a little bit more later. So please get in tune tonight and find out about the Alexander-Arnold injury, and maybe possibly a little bit more on Mac Allister red card. Thank you everyone tuning in. Thank you. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Thank you for myself, Charlie, Drew, and Ben. This has been LSE Transfer Room. Up the Reds.
Up to that.